Alright, this week we'll be talking about absolute values. And you'll notice here that we have absolute value symbols. Okay, those are straight up lines. You can actually find those on your keyboard. They're above the forward slash if you're working on a computer. And absolute value, everybody thinks, hey, absolute value is always positive. Well, that is semi-true. Absolute value means, though, distance. And it means specifically distance from 0. Okay, so here's the origin on a number line, or the 0 point. And it says, hey, the distance from 0 is 5 units. And what that indicates to us is that x could be -5 or it could be +5. So if we were trying to answer this inequality equation, we would say, well, x is either 5 or -5. We don't know which one it is. Depends on the context of a problem. Okay? Now, does that mean the absolute value of x, or whatever the number is always a positive number? It does. But you do want to think in terms of how far are you away from 0. Okay? So when I write the solution for this, I say, hey, x is either 5 or x is -5. If this was a 5, how far is 5 away from 0? The answer would be 5. If x is a -5, how far is it away from 0? It is 5. So both of those solutions make it true. So we got to make sure we account for both those. Alright, now we're going to use that concept as we go forward here to solve more complicated problems. Let's say the distance from 0 is 2/3. So what could x be? X could be over at 2/3 on a number line. Think about where that would be. 2/3 is about right there. Or x could be over here at -2/3. So we have to get both of those solutions. And so notice a pattern we're starting to see here. X is either the 2/3, the positive part, or x could be over there at the negative part. That's a pattern we're going to use to solve more complicated problems. X is -7, or the absolute value of x is -7. Well, if you start to think about that in terms of what absolute value means, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, -7. Again, in terms of distance, who is -7 away from 0? When we talk about distance, distance can only be a positive measurement. You don't go north and call it positive 20 miles and then go south and call it negative. The absolute value, this is the reason you can never have a negative answer, can never be I'm -7 away, because the absolute value means distance. And distance is measured in positive units. So that distance right there is 7 units. This distance is right here is 7 units. Who is -7 away? Nobody is. This actually has no solutions. Nobody can be -7 away. Let me get my tablet fixed here. Okay, you can never be -7. You can't be any negative away from 0.0. It gets into more complicated stuff later, but for right now, if you have the absolute value of something gives you a negative, you just say no, that's not possible. Absolute value of x is 28. That means I'm either 28 to the right of 0 or 28 to the left of 0. That means x could be -28 or x is 28, and you're done. A little more complicated now. X plus 2 equals 6. Now we have to elaborate. We have to say, all right, so the absolute value, the distance, is either 6 or the distance could be over there at negative 6. Probably should have reversed those, but same difference. And the key thing is, for those who aren't big fans of math, here's the pattern. Write it like you see it, x plus 2 equals 6. Write it again, and now change the sign. Because I don't know if I'm over there at negative 6 or positive 6, now I just have two little linear equations to solve. Subtract 2, subtract 2. X could be 4. Look at how that works. 4 plus 2 is 6. Absolute value of 6 is 6. Subtract 2, subtract 2. Or x could be at negative 8. Negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. And the distance, that is from 0, is 6 units. So both these are our solutions. Again, the same thing. Let's write it the way we see it. X minus 7 could be at 18 on the number line, or x minus 7 could be at negative 18 on the number line. We'll add 7 to both sides to get the x alone. X might be at 25, or add 7. X could be at negative 11. And both of those, if x is at 25, you'd be 18 away from 0. If x is at negative 11, I'm sorry, I should rephrase that. If x is 25, then x minus 7 will give you 18, which is 18 units away from 0. If x is negative 11, then negative 11 minus 7 is negative 18, which is 18 away from 0. Got a few more examples left. Here we have a multiplication in there, but we do exactly the same thing. We say, hey, 5x, you could be 20. Or 5x, you could be at negative 20. And think about this for a second. The absolute value of 20 is 20. The absolute value of negative 20 is 20. So both of these are possibilities. Then we just solve them. Divide by 5 because it's 5 times x. X is 4. Divide by 5. X is negative 4. So x is equal to 4 or negative 4. Okay, a little notation here. You can go x equals 4. I'm at negative 4. That works. You could put x equals 4 or negative 4. That also works. Next problem, let's follow that same pattern. The stuff inside the absolute value could equal 6, or the stuff inside the absolute value could be over at negative 6. And we just solve each of these just like we solve linear equations. Subtract 1, subtract 1. Negative 3x equals 5. So x could be at, I'm just dividing by negative 3 here, negative 5/3. So that could be one solution. Or, let's work the other problem. Negative 3x equals negative 7. Divide by negative 3 to get that x alone. So x could equal 7/3. So much more difficult answers, but we're using the same process. Write it the way you see it. Write it again, but flip the sign on the number. Now notice also, every single time I've done these, the absolute value is on the left-hand side. That's going to be important later on. Another important part is, look at how this is 2, and this is times. Now, you do not want to distribute that 2. what you want to do is isolate the absolute value. Well, how do we do it? It's 2 times that absolute value, so let's undo that multiplication. 2 over 2, so now we're left with x minus 7 in the absolute values equals 12. Now you can write two equations. One's the way you see it, x minus 7 equals 12, or x minus 7 equals, it could be over on the left-hand side, negative 12. Let me solve both these. So x could equal 19. It's one of our answers. Or add 7 to both sides. X could equal negative 5. We do not know which one it is. We don't know the context of the problem. We are just solving absolute values. Okay, so we give both of those as solutions. All right, now this should be review for you. You've got a few problems to try tonight. Give them a shot, and then we'll talk about it on, I guess that'll be Wednesday because of the holiday and everything being changed around.